All right, welcome. We've got Dr. David Powers here with me, Josh Gardens, and we're going to be talking all about growing your own food, foraging for food, supplements and wellness, and really how you can take care of your body and what that means in regards to nature. So, Dr. David, thank you for joining us. Should I say Dr. David or just David? What do you go by?
Dave's fine.
Dave is fine. All right. So
Yeah.
Dave, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me about your mission, like what it is that you do.
Okay. I help entrepreneurs, moms and dads, help them set up multiple streams of income so that they can figure things out and spend more time with family and the kids and actually be parents. And one of my favorite streams of income is making money off your own land. And so that's where I get into the farming, agritourism. I mean, some crazy things I'm doing here on my little farm and just really enjoy it. Hands on stuff that is crazy fun.
Yeah, that sounds exciting. I'd love to hear more about that later, but let's get started with some of your growing adventures. What do you feel like is the biggest lesson, foraging mushrooms? I saw that you have a lot of content around foraging. I don't do too much foraging, although I do love a good American persimmon. But tell me about like what you've learned about foraging and how it's impacted your food and health.
Well, the biggest thing I've learned is lean on the experts, especially with things like mushrooms. Because I'm finding some really neat things here on the property that we bought, and just also some things that can hurt you if you're not careful, and some things that look very similar. And so, anytime when you're learning foraging, find experts, not just the books, but actually find people that will come out and show you things and take you hands on and show you not what just to pick, but show you what to stay away from and find the good and the bad and look at them side by side. And because you want to stay safe. I mean, foraging is fun, but safety is paramount.
I always say safety first. That's actually one of my mottos that I use. So I get a little nervous when I look at mushrooms and things like, is there any like indicator like this is definitely a poisonous mushroom? Don't pick that one.
The thing I learned first is, of course, there are some great mushrooms that grow on the ground, but I learned first that the things on the ground are the things you have to look at more than once. The higher the mushroom grows, generally the safer it is. But
Oh,
the things on
interesting.
the ground pay even more close attention to.
Okay. That's a good rule of thumb. And I know that you've got, how many kids do you have? You said you have multiple, four, is it? Five
Yeah.
kids. Wow. How has letting your kids help you in the garden and on the farm and the property? How's that changed their view of food?
It's interesting because they look at food a little different, as in they know where it comes from. So many kids, I mean, ultra processed foods, things like that, they have no idea what it comes from. And for instance, yesterday we were on our way to a hiking adventure and we passed one of those semi trucks that's loaded down with thousands and thousands of chickens. And they smell horrible. You get behind them and you see those chickens and it's sad. I mean, you see those, and you know that they're never coming out of that cage. That they've never lived a life. And we were telling the kids like, this is not where you want to get your chickens if you can avoid it. But that's where most people, that's what they eat. It's just I want them to know where it comes from.
Yeah, I think that's so great. I mean, I wish I had that growing up. I mean, I did a little bit in the gardening side, but not even on the meat side. And that connection, I think, helps you have a lot more respect for where food comes from and when you eat it. Um, what kind of wild food have you foraged? Like besides mushrooms, what else have you gone out and found, either your property or out and about?
Oh, mostly tree nuts and things like that for now. Like like most homesteaders, the first time we got into it and we said, "Oh, this seems cool," we try to do everything at once. And then we bought this little piece of land in the farm where we're on now, and we're doing things one at a time and just trying to enjoy it, really learn it, and it keeps you from getting overwhelmed. And so right now, we're looking at all the trees and the things that are growing on our farm before we branch out further. And things like persimmons and walnuts, pecans, some of the mushrooms that are prevalent here, sassafras root. I mean, just some really neat things on a tiny little piece of property here.
That's so exciting. I actually eat persimmons almost daily this time of year. And there's one down this path that we walk on my property and we just shake the tree like this. And the
Yeah.
ones that fall are the ones that are ripe. That's how we know. That's what I favorite. But hickory nuts are a good one that I found here. So that's exciting. That's cool that you do that as a family too. That would be
Yeah.
so fun to go and walk about. How do you connect your farm life with foraging adventures? Like, how do the two of those coexist?
We try to do everything together. So with the kids, like we'll go out. Yesterday, we do a homeschool field trip at least one day a week, and we'll try to combine things. And so, yeah, we're walking a trail to get to this waterfall spot, but we'll also try to stop and say, "Oh, see this tree." And like on that trail yesterday, we ran into a muscadine vine that was just dropping grapes everywhere, and it was so cool. And they were perfectly ripe, and it's just wonderful, a nice little snack when you're on the trail.
That's
And
exciting.
so, what I've tried to do to keep from overwhelming my kids is every adventure, every field trip, even things like museum visits. Remember one thing. Just pick one thing out of today that you want to remember and really cement into your mind, and they'll remember more than that. But that one thing just really just becomes prominent in their memory bank.
That's cool. What is there a recent thing that was the one thing that your kids were like, I remembered this. This is the most memorable part of this recent trip?
Yeah, the all right. So this one's a little weird to some people maybe, but poplar trees they're everywhere here, and they tend to grow fast. And so identifying leaves is something we're working on, and that's hard for a lot of kids because there's so many. Poplar trees, they look very different from an oak. They have this, I call it a butt on the end of the leaf. It looks like a butt. And so anytime we see the butt leaf, they're like, oh, that's a poplar.
Every time I see a poplar, I'm going to think about that. Oh, that's the butt leaf.
Yep.
Yeah, I recently learned that yellow poplars are really good for providing pollen for bees. So I just started getting into beekeeping, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you got all these poplars, and that's a big source for them." And I was like, "Really?" I mean, I guess you don't see the flowers because they're so far up, but they
Yeah.
have them.
And they're huge too.
Yeah, yeah. Um, awesome. So I know that you have a military background, which is really cool, and I respect that. And I want to first of all thank you for your service.
Thank you.
That's awesome. And what's one survival skill from your military days that's helped in your gardening and foraging and farming days? Is there something that you sort of carried forward?
Yeah, for me, logistics. I worked a lot in logistics and intelligence, and it's just doing things step by step. I've learned with gardening because I tend to kill things easily. And sometimes just when I look at it, it seems to wilt in my presence because gardening is just something I'm having to learn. But just doing things step by step and orderly. When we first started planting gardens, we would throw seeds in the ground and not know what was coming up. And it would be like, what is this? Well, let's just wait until the fruit appears or the vegetable, and then we'll know what it is. And so, like, for me, just doing grids in my gardens, things like that, just staying orderly and efficient.
I could see a military minded gardening having a lot of like square foot gardening designs where like this foot is for this foot is for that. Is that how it's laid out, or is it
Oh
pretty
man, I
little bit
started
one
out with the square foot gardening method.
It's awesome. What do you feel like is the biggest thing that you've learned from gardening and homesteading? Like that if you could tell your younger self something like, oh, don't do this or do this, what's the biggest piece of wisdom you'd pass back to yourself?
For me, not just gardening, but everywhere in life, curiosity and experimentation. Just try everything.
Hmm.
With our garden, we've tried every single possible thing we could think of, and and that's how we find out. Like, oh, this particular bed is great for tomatoes, but horrible for something else, and so that's where the tomatoes are going. And this other one, and it could be the dirt, it could be the amount of sunlight. I don't know, but it's just experiment. Don't worry about the things that fail. Just try it different next time, and maybe figure out why it failed and what you can do better.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, failure is the first step in learning, is what a lot of people say. I know personally, I've killed a lot of plants, so I can I can relate to that.
Yep.
Yeah, like never plant an almond tree in a puddle. It won't make it. I can tell you that much.
Yep.
I killed a few that way. Uh, um, why do you think that small gardens, even foraging trips with your families, can make your family stronger together?
It brings us together because we work together. Like when we're doing garden maintenance, I've got a bunch of raised bed gardens all over the place, and not just big fields of things. And so we're working together like when we're out there nowadays, we've got like a ton of tomatoes right now, and so we're out there clipping things, pulling tomatoes, pulling the weeds, and just having conversation, talking about things, throwing the hornworms at each other, whatever, and just while we're out there working in the garden.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love throwing the hornworms. I bet you your guinea fowl would love the hornworms. Do they
Oh
eat them,
man,
or
yeah,
do they?
they will absolutely love those.
That's awesome. Well, cool. Well, anything else that you wanted to share about growing and foraging before we get into the supplements and wellness side of things?
No, I would just say just get out there. Too many people are afraid of it. Whether it's a fear of snakes and ticks or like right now, the spiders. I mean, you have to walk outside right now with a stick in front of you just to catch the spider webs before your face does. But don't be afraid of that stuff. Those spiders that you're walking through, they're not going to hurt you. And the snakes we've seen here on the farm, very few of those are going to hurt you. Most of them are just beautiful to watch. And so don't be afraid of all the things. Don't be afraid of misidentifying things. Just go out and learn. Identify it before you eat it. But for now, just go out, take pictures, Google Lens it, talk to people, send the pictures to people. I mean, there's so many things you can do to learn without being afraid.
I love that. That's so good. Although running into a spider web on a walk is like the worst thing, because especially when you're like, "Is it on me?" and then you feel something crawling.
Yep.
So we do a lunch walk, my wife and I, every day over lunch with our dogs, and now our cat, which follows us, which is really funny. And so I have the walking stick, and I do that.
Yep.
I'm like, all right, it's my job to keep the spider webs from running into us.
Yep.
That's so funny. Well, cool. Let's shift gears here. One of the things that you're passionate about, I'm passionate about, is wellness, and wellness has a lot to do with not just what you garden and grow and forage, but also supplements that you take and put into your body. And this podcast is really sponsored by Earth First, or that's really how we connected. First of all, I saw you on the Earth First commercials, and I was like, man, first of all, this guy's an epic beard, and I wish my beard was that full.
Oh man,
epic,
it used to be
but it's
down to
not.
my waist. I used to do beard competitions.
Really? Oh my
Yep.
god! Yeah, this is about as long as I go. So one day I dreamed to have a big beard. But anyway,
Yeah.
so I know that you're involved with Earth First. Tell me a little bit about like your connection with them as a brand and the supplements in general.
Okay, I actually got connected through Michael Feynman in a membership group that we're in about setting up memberships as businesses. And so me and him connected and really got to know each other over a shared passion of clean supplements, coffee, things like that. And also just parenting. He's big into the parenting sphere. And we just connected over that and got more and more in touch. And I started learning more about Earth First and how they source things, and just wanted to dig into that a little more.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I recently met Mike, and he told me about you, and I was like, yeah, I've seen that guy before on commercials. The guy with the great beard. He's like, yeah, that's him. And so, yeah, I'm right there with you. And I recently sort of got into the regenerative farming side of things, visiting a farm in Tennessee that was regenerative, and I believe it sources some of the material for the Earth First supplements, which is really how I learned about it.
Yeah.
But when
Whose
it
farm did
comes,
you visit?
it was the one south of Nashville in Somerton, Tennessee. So it
Okay.
was a pretty sizable farm, and they had greenhouses. They had all the water buffalo with what they call a flurd, which was a flock and
Oh,
a
okay.
herd,
This
like
is the
where they
guy
like
that
follow
wrote
cattle.
the Maker's Diet, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah,
I know I've
yeah,
not been there, but I know exactly the farm you're talking about, especially when you mentioned the water buffalo.
yeah. It was eye opening for me as a grower just to think about how you can utilize animals and herding and grazing to build your topsoil, which is going to build your soil health, which is going to make for better plants. And so it's really sort of shifted my mindset into how I grow and growing differently. But well, cool. Let's talk a little bit about supplements and wellness. With your military background, have they shaped your approach to wellness, nutrition? Was there any type of regimen, or are you sort of moving away from their teachings? I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, the military, I mean, they will just tear you up and break you down. They don't really care about I mean, you've got the special forces side of things where they have a little more control over what they do. They create elite athletes with supplements, food, the things they give those guys. But the regular military, they will break you down and then send you home after 20 years with bad knees, bad back, everything else.
Wow.
So what I've taken from that, though, the workouts, the regimen, things like that, I do heavily. And like for me, I hate running, and so I'll still go out and walk miles and miles with a weighted backpack on, and do that instead of running. But supplement and everything, I've just picked up on my own, following people that I enjoy, like Ben Greenfield, stuff like that, and just learning what I can and picking up what I can. And like I said, curiosity and experimentation. I experiment with a lot of supplements just to see
Really?
what happens, what
Hmm.
changes, and I kind of enjoy that.
All right. So have you had any experiments go wrong? You don't have to list brands, but I'm just saying, have you tried something like, okay, that didn't work?
Um, well, it's weird. The first thing I told Michael when he sent me some Earth First vitamins, he sent me a bottle and said, "Try these out. Let me know what you think." The supplement and I'm not talking anything prescription, just supplements. The ones I have had the most trouble with was multivitamins. I would try
Really?
all these different multivitamins, and they would make me sick to my stomach. I would have to go eat more food to help process the vitamin. And it was the
Oh,
first thing I did was experiment with the Earth First vitamins on an empty stomach, just to kind of get some raw data for myself, and no stomach upset, nothing like that. So I don't know exactly what it is that's awesome about it, whether it's the sourced ingredients, the quantities, but absolutely perfect, no troubles at all. Other supplements I've not had problems with, and I've taken some heavy doses on some just to see if it would cause nausea, diarrhea, anything like that. The common side effects of anything,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah.
That's amazing. That's a good test to test it on an empty stomach. I mean, I know for me, when I take my supplements, I try to do it first thing in the morning, then I'll eat something afterwards.
Mhm.
So I could see how that would be important because you definitely don't want that feeling. What do you feel like? Um, what do you feel like is a superfood for you? Do you feel like there's any foods out there you're like, man, I always have to eat this, or this is something that I live by, from a dietary standpoint?
For me, it's kale.
Hmm.
I like a lot of kale. Now, I'm not saying I like the flavor of kale. I don't think anybody does. I would question if they're telling the truth. But for me, greens and kale grows well here. I've always been able to grow kale really well. So much so that we grow so much of it that I dehydrate it, powder it, and it goes into my breakfast smoothie every morning. The powdered
Wow.
kale that I can it and store it.
Wow. So you dry it and then you grind it and then you add it to your that's a lot of work. How much time does that take?
Generally, if we've got in the small kale garden I've got, if we've got a good harvest, it'll take me 2 days to dry it all, and then
Okay.
I just powder it in my coffee grinder actually, and
Oh,
I'll have you know mason jars full of it on the shelves.
that's awesome. I've dried a lot of fruit, but I haven't really gotten into like the dried veggie side of things. So I'm
Yeah,
curious to give now what type of kale? The lacinato, the Russian, sort of
Russian.
curly kale, Russian kale.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what grows the best here in the soil we've
Okay.
got.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I love kale. I do a lot, and I harvest it from the bottom leaves up, and so I can sort of
Mhm.
continuously harvest it really through the whole
Yeah.
winter here,
Oh
which
yeah,
is nice.
that's one thing I like about it too. It's a beautiful winter vegetable. I mean, it looks good in the garden, keeps it from everything looking dead. And one great thing about drying it and powdering it is later in the season when it starts to get bitter and starts to flower, things like that, you can still get it. And since you don't care about the flavor as much, because the other things I put in my smoothie, like my chocolate protein powder, it overpowers the kale flavor.
That's that's the way to eat when you have to eat a lot of kale. Add some chocolate.
Yeah.
Uh, Funny. Um, what do you feel like is a new trend in nutrition that you're seeing right now? What's sort of up and coming that you're like, oh, that's interesting. I need to look into that.
One thing I've been digging into is creatine, like
Hmm.
higher dose creatine. Most in your creatine jars, everything it says 5 milligrams creatine for muscle effects, endurance, things like that. But I keep reading from other people that it's one of the most studied supplements on the market, And some of the effects at 10 milligrams and 15 milligrams for especially over 40 men. I'm 50, and for mental effects, depression
Hmm.
effects, things like that. And so I'm experimenting right now with 10 milligrams, and I've been fairly pleased with it. So getting ready to move up to 15 milligrams in the morning.
Hmm. All right, I need to look into this. I'm on my way there. I'm only 43 right now, so
Well,
I'm
and
getting.
I like to work out a lot too. And as I get older, for older men, muscle just atrophies mainly due to the lower testosterone as you get older. And
Hmm.
so I need as much help as I can get. So
Yeah.
it's one of the
Are
reasons I'm
there
looking into it.
are there any other sort of male specific issues that you've seen that you're like, oh man, I need to take supplements for this, or that's really going to help like men's health specifically?
Yeah, the lower testosterone for sure, and I don't want to go on testosterone therapy because some of the reading I've done it shows how once you start it, you pretty much have to always do it the rest of your life, and I don't want to do that. I also don't want to. Some of the methods, I mean, the needles are fine. I wouldn't mind that, but having to rub the testosterone ointment in certain areas, I don't want to have to do that every morning, and yeah, I mean, so I'm looking at alternate methods for keeping testosterone high, or at least keeping it
Hmm,
from dropping. And
interesting.
joint stuff, because because of my military stuff, joints are one of my issues. And I've tried a lot of joint supplements and not found a single one that helped me a bit, like the chondroitin and things like that. Either I have a different issue, or the joint supplements are just a waste.
Yeah. Yeah, I might need when you find one. Let me know because I do a lot of running,
Yeah.
and I go and run several times a week. And but my knees, I'm starting to notice as I get older, my knees are more sore, and so I'm
Hmm.
definitely starting to think about okay, I need to start some preventative joint health supplements.
Yeah. Best thing I've found is just I bought some flexibility programs,
Hmm,
and where they guide me through stretches, and a lot of stretches I'd never done before that I'll be honest with you, they hurt when you first start doing them. And that's worked better for my joints than any of the joint supplements.
hmm, interesting. Okay, I'm gonna have to look into that too. I'm learning all kinds of stuff here. This is great. Thank you. If you could design your own supplement blend, what would you have it be? Like, what would it be inclusive of?
Oh man, this actually is something I'm looking into, maybe private labeling something like this when I can put it together.
Hmm.
I want a like the perfect men's morning smoothie blend.
Ooh,
Because right now it doesn't take a lot of time, but I feel like I spend half my morning just scooping from different bottles. And
yeah.
I want something that's got my greens, protein, good amount of protein in the morning. I go 30 milligrams. Creatine. Also, let's see what else I put in there: greens, protein, creatine. The pre-workout doesn't need to go in there, but I do add that sometimes, and
Hmm.
either that or an energy drink. But just a good morning blend where I'm not blending a bunch of different things.
Yeah. You might want to do that. That sounds pretty appealing. I could see a real market for that because you're right. Everything I've seen online is like do this, do that. This will do
Yeah.
this. So I could see that that would be an interesting product. Cool. What do you feel like? You work with a lot of people and you interact with them on a daily basis. What do you feel like is the biggest roadblock that stops them from trusting supplements today?
Too much information.
Hmm.
And that's like with my business, with what I do with entrepreneurs. That's one of the things I try to strive to is cutting out all the crap. Just here's a thing, go do the thing. Don't quit researching, quit because you can go endless with all that. And same thing with supplements. Uh,
Yeah.
at some point, you have to act, and that's where curiosity and experimentation comes in. You have to act, but it may not always be the perfect thing right away. So refine it as you go.
Yeah. Now, I did see that you're a life coach. Tell me if I came to you and I said, I want you to be my life coach, where would you start?
With the people I work with, mostly the first place I start is finances,
Okay.
because I find that that's the most common excuse. They'll use that as the excuse not to act. Like I would love to blank, but I've got all this debt, blah blah blah, and so I I don't know if you ever heard of Dave Ramsey, but that's kind of where I start with
Yeah.
Dave Ramsey's style. Reducing consumer debt, and once you can free up that much, in my opinion, reducing consumer debt is like a side hustle because it'll gain you so much money.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah,
So
and you got
beyond
more
the
money for
finances,
supplements then.
Do you, beyond the finance, do you get into like health and wellness side of things in your coaching?
I do. And so once you get the finance, you can get rid of those excuses. And so that's what I try to just gradually remove distractions and excuses and then move into the wellness. Because once I can get them more money, then I try to free up time. That's the main excuse for wellness as far as the actual exercising, getting out in nature, doing some forest bathing, that kind of thing, is just freeing up time and showing them that, like, oh, if we eliminate this one Netflix show, or an hour of TikTok after dinner, then you've got time to go walk in the woods. At least until you can do that, maybe you can just find a nice trail where you're not worrying about tripping over roots, and you can do your TikTok while you're out in the woods. And
Yeah, I
gradually
love
move
that.
them towards better things.
Yeah, in other countries outside the US, I've heard that doctors actually prescribe walking in nature when people are feeling down,
Yes.
out, depressed. That's something that, like a prescription, like, oh, do some forest bathing, over in Japan, and do, some nature walks there in Europe. And I've heard that, and I'm thinking, man, I'd love to see a doctor today prescribe
Oh,
that.
yeah, absolutely. And not to get on the tangent of big pharma and all that, but just the doctors have no incentive to do anything other than like, they say, if you're a surgeon, everything always requires surgery. And so doctors, at the VA, it's even worse because I'm in the VA medical system, and it's always,
Mm.
oh, this is wrong with you. Well, here's 3 medications and 1,000 milligrams of ibuprofen. Just go ahead and take this.
Jeez. Wow. Okay. Well, I totally can relate to that. Again, not getting too much into big pharma, but I've been told, like, oh, you need to get this surgery, you need to get this thing done, and then I go to my naturopathic doctor, and he's like, I see all the people that get that thing done, and they come to me because it didn't work or it caused more side
Yeah,
effects. So it's really interesting to see how our medical system has worked against the human body's natural functions. In
yeah.
my mind.
I'm having the fight now because as I'm getting older, my cholesterol goes up, which it's a natural consequence of age and less activity. But the fight over statins, because
Mm,
it, not to get into the weeds with this one, but it's just there's so many bad side effects from statins that reducing the chance of a potential heart attack, and I say that way to say, like, it's a chance of something potential, but those side effects, they're definitely there. And so
yeah,
it's kind of crazy.
yeah. Hmm. I noticed that you're on social media a lot, and you've got TikTok videos you put out pretty regularly. I myself have been in social media for about 2 years now, and I'm just sort of starting to understand, like, what it is, the purpose, why I'm on there, what people are trying to get out of it, what's working, what's not good for the human body to get sucked into doom scrolling. What do you feel like is your purpose on social media? Like, what's your message you're trying to get out?
It's lifestyle. Everything I do is just everything I do money wise, all the businesses I run, how busy I am doing things. It's so that I can spend more time with the kids and on the farm. And so,
Yeah.
like, I made a post this morning about my most watched YouTube video last month was me going up on the upper porch, throwing my phone off the porch to my kid, and just so the view of the video is just of the sky falling, and you see the trees, and then bang. And the most watched video is just me having fun with the kids. That's what gets the most views and clicks and everything else.
That's wild. I'm gonna throw my phone in my next video and see how it performs. See if I don't
Yeah,
break. I think
I
one
mean,
time
some of
I
the greatest
splat.
videos we've seen are people throwing GoPros off piers and stuff, and just watching what comes to look at it and things like that.
Yeah, I think that creates like human wonder. Like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen to that phone? One time I tried to like splash water at my phone, and then the sound sounded like this afterwards, and I was like, okay, next time don't splash water at your phone
Yeah.
in the middle of the video. Well, cool. This has been great, and you've mentioned a little bit about Earth First already. But what do you like about them as a brand? Compared to other supplement brands on the market.
Oh, that's a great question because it's trust.
Mm,
Um, a lot of my supplements I do order, the ones Earth First doesn't make. I order from Amazon just because it's easier. But there have been a lot of supplements, counterfeit ones coming through Amazon. And like the bottle looks the same. And I actually, when I order things now, I have to pull it up. You can find websites that show what the company bottle looks like and what the counterfeit often looks like. And the bad thing is, in the Amazon shipping facilities, it gets the same barcode because it has the same name. And so you got to be real careful about that, and be sure to check it, send it back if you need to. But with Earthburst, I don't have to worry about that. Whether it's the coffee I'm ordering or the vitamins, I don't have to even give it a second thought. I know where it's come from at the source. Not just is it a counterfeit item, but at the source, it's coming from something good.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, when you know where something's come from, what it's made of, and you've actually seen that firsthand, like you're like, okay, I trust that. I believe that. You're not putting extra stuff in there that I don't need, or you're not, you're not
Yeah.
faking materials from China and other places.
Oh, yeah. And some dangerous stuff has been showing up in some of those. I mean, everything
Yeah.
from this is just flour instead of a supplement to heavy metals and whatever just get caught in the machine.
Wow. Wow. Well, what questions do you have for me? Is there anything else that you wanted to share before we wrap it up?
Yeah, what's your favorite fruit tree? I mean, since we're similar geography, what have you had the most success with, and maybe even
Hmm.
beside that, though, do you have a favorite that you haven't had success with, but you wish you did?
Okay, so those are two questions.
Yep.
Favorite fruit tree has got to be Asian persimmons. These are American persimmons here, which is like the small round ones that you'll see, like,
Yeah,
about this
that's what
size.
I've got.
Yeah, but Asian persimmons are like this. They're the size
Wow.
of an apple. And they come in astringent and non-astringent. I particularly like the non-astringent, which means that you can eat it more like an apple where it's crisp. It's not all mushy. And they're really disease resistant. So you don't have to worry about pests. You don't have to prune them a lot because they're not super vigorous. And they put out a ton of fruit, and they put out fruit really late. So like November, early
Okay.
December here, when everything else is done. So if I was going to recommend someone to plant one fruit tree, go get an Asian persimmon. That would be the type. It does well in, I think, stones 7 through 10. So if you're like, somewhat warmer, you couldn't grow it
Yeah.
in a really cold environment. Yeah. For things I wish I could grow well, apples have been really hard.
Yeah.
Apples are just the hardest fruit tree to grow in the Southeast because of our high humidity. We have so many pests and disease issues. I finally got really good apples this year off all my trees, and the squirrels ate 90% of them. So then I got a cat this year, and my cat takes a nap while the squirrels eat the apples. It's just, you can't make it up. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
I've tried everything, and so now I got these things I can put over the apples, but then that creates humidity issues. So it's like, okay,
Yep.
you just can't seem to win. So growing apples in the South is tough, and I love apples, and so I've gotten a few good ones this year, but the squirrels have enjoyed them the most.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've got a lot of shade grown property here, and I don't want to cut down my trees because I love having some forest to walk through. And so
Yeah,
I'm looking into some things that grow well in shade grown. Like around here,
pawpaw. Yeah,
tea does and pawpaws,
okay.
and looking at some elderberry, different things I can plant shade grown that also are a little more specialty crop. So I'm not, when I get to the point where I'm selling it, I won't be competing against so many other people.
Yeah. You could grow some blackberries in part shade. I've got some blackberries, like thornless blackberries, and I get probably half the yield I would if I was in full sun. But you
Yeah.
still get, I mean, half is better than none,
Oh yeah.
in a part shade environment. So it's tough, because you've got these big, beautiful trees. You don't want to cut them down, but you want to get fruit. And then I've cut some down and then either regretted it or like, it's just so much work to cut down some of these large trees, and then you got to deal with the roots, and then you got to cut up the wood, and then you got all the limbs you got to chip or do something
Yeah.
with. So it's a lot.
Oh, and we're working right now on a pecan tree that went down in Hurricane Helene. And
Mhm.
I mean, it's a 100-foot tall pecan tree. We had all of our kids' swings in it and everything. And
Uh,
half of it's still sitting in the yard where it fell. They moved the root balls up in the air. I mean, it's going to take us forever to get rid of this thing.
yeah, that's a chore. When I first started about 10 years ago, I was like, I'm going to dig up every tree. I'm going to dig up the roots by hand. I'd spend like 2 days. This is when I was younger. 2 days, like digging up this big oak root ball, and then you couldn't even move it. And then finally, like, I'm renting heavy machinery. Next time,
Yeah.
now I just rent a Bobcat. If I'm going to take out something big, or I'll just rent a Bobcat because it's
Yeah.
it's not worth
The only
it.
thing that makes me feel better sometimes is when I'm out there doing that stuff, I'll call it functional fitness. It's a functional workout. And
Ah,
so it's not this tree that takes 3 years to get rid of. It's workout machinery.
there you go. There you go. I like that.
Oh, and axe. There's been some studies that show that axe swinging,
Yeah.
cutting wood, chopping trees, builds testosterone. Like there've been testosterone building effects from just because it feels so manly. It just
Yeah.
ignites the hormones.
That's awesome. I do split about 2 cords of wood by hand every year, so I'm a big axe
Yeah,
user. Splitting wood is huge. We have a wood stove, so I burn quite a bit, and I even make my own fire starters. So it's really
yeah,
fun. Yeah,
nice.
cool. Well, this has been great. How can people find you? Tell me a little bit about like where they can go to get your information. Tell us about what people could do next to connect with you.
Yeah, best place to find me is Red Team Goals. RedTeamGoals. Red Team Goals. You can find everything there. All my social links. What I do to help moms and dads, spend more time with the kids, that kind of thing. And that's what I like to do. That's my passion is just helping parents align their income, if that means getting away from a W-2 job, whatever. But so that more time is spent with the kids before they grow up and leave the house.
That's awesome. And that must be so fulfilling to see people take your advice, take action, and then fulfill, a more, I don't know how you would describe it, but just a more fulfilling lifestyle.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Oh
Well,
yeah,
great.
and it runs the gamut too, from homeschooling to more dinners together. I mean, there's so many things that can make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Dave, it's been awesome. Thank you for spending time with us today. This has been a great conversation. I've learned a lot. So I'm excited to stay connected. And until next time, thanks.
Yeah, thanks.